Yeah, I think it's very beneficial in terms of multiculturalism. I think it's very good to provide students with another insight than just the typical one-sided people. By having more different people with different colors, different skin colors, I think it is very good to open themselves, their minds to other people other than just, I guess, Canadian people.
Yeah.
And also on a monetary standpoint, I believe that having international students, the tuition fee that you gain from them is significantly greater than non-international students as well.
It's okay because you're shoving like all these kids who can't speak English as well in one room. It's not very helpful for them to learn English. So, because like some of them can actually speak their own language, right?
Yes, I think it's pretty beneficial to our school. First of all, diversity is very important in Canada, and by establishing this international program, it enriches the overall learning experience of the students as a whole. In addition, it also allows students to experience cross-cultural learning.
It's so-so. There's good things to it and there's bad things to it. Personally, I have international students at my house and they're really nice people. It's just that they don't really study and they kind of slack off. And there's some international students that work really hard, but there's a lot that do not work really hard. And I feel that it kind of influences other people to not work as hard, and also it just kind of drags down our school's ratings and like exams and things like that. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
International students.
So without international students, I guess we can't really learn much of a culture. I mean, like, yeah, we learn it in class, but through other people coming from other countries, I think we can have a broader perspective, I guess.
To be honest, Fraser Heights is pretty much like an international student school. The majority of the students in Fraser Heights are either like immigrants from a short term or international students.
The international students do bring in their culture and they teach us a lot about the country that they come from. And the learning might improve as, most international students are in a different environment. They don't try as hard. So, if once they're gone, then our ratings actually might improve.
Oh, okay.
To be honest, I think it's pretty good right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, what I see in international students that they are not very engaged in the language, and they often doesn't speak English, and they speak their native language, and they do not try to learn English and try to speak English, which would defeat the purpose why they would come here.
I guess more of like more understanding of culture, I guess. Because language boundary, it wasn't that big, like hard.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you eventually learn English, right? But culture boundary was a little bit difficult for me. Like,
The thing is with the international student program is the courses are actually catered towards them, and this makes it like much more different compared to a normal student life at normal high school.
Yeah.
Because what happens is with a different schedule and with a different course catered towards them, they're sort of, I guess, separated. What happens is this sort of creates like a line between these it separates these two groups, so between normal students and international students. So they can't really communicate and form a bond.
I think it might influence other people to not try as hard. I mean, because, so many people don't try hard. And, like, personally, I kind of feel affected because my homestay don't really do things. They seem so relaxed, and, like, that kind of rubs on to me. And, like, I haven't been, like, getting down to do my work as I should have.
Well, yes, because they impact other students by challenging them, and by helping them, because a lot of international students are good at academics, which would help some Canadian students in certain areas.
Definitely, especially in my science class, there's a few international students, and them specifically, it doesn't seem like they're really dedicated. They don't really care about school. They lack in studying. They go home every day, and I think they just play games. They do whatever, and it really shows in their marks. They're not doing that well. And I think with this attitude, it really impacts other students in their class as well, it starts impacting because they start thinking, oh, it doesn't really matter, school doesn't really matter, I don't really need to do well in my education. So this attitude, it starts really spreading.
Well, usually like students with the same culture and background tend to stick together, and also there's this language barrier, right? So obviously, the students from Korea tend to stay together more, and students from China tend to stay together more, and then they can communicate in the Chinese culture and Chinese language, and I think that's not a bad thing necessarily.
I think there's like three main groups in our like school. As there are those who like stay with their own culture, with their own people. There are those who try to adapt, and then there are those like smokers. Right? I mean, like smoking is a big part of Asian culture, I guess.
Yeah, I see that some of the international students, like this one girl I know, they actually study really hard. They actually try, and they try to make friends and get used to this environment. So they hang out with people like anyone they can hang out with. But then there's those people who they just only stay with the same type of people. So like all the international students, they kind of just stay together. There are those kind. That's the only two groups that I've seen.
Oh, I see what you mean.